But Branson, definitely to the edge of space, White Knight and all of that.
Yeah.
He was involved with the X Prize with Paul Allen.
Our home port at the Port of Los Angeles, we are directly across from SpaceX and their vessels.
Oh, okay.
Including the barge, just read the instructions.
Yeah.
And their capsule processing vessel.
We're about to refurbish some testing. Oh, no, SpaceX? No, I'm thinking of Blue Origin, I think. I was in Huntsville for a Science Friday show, and they were giving us kind of a tour around and talking to us about the SLS that they're testing, and it was just massive. We just walked right up to it, and
cool.
Lead engineers, and it's hundreds of feet tall.
Yeah.
And it's just being suspended, and they have all of these, I mean, it's just coated in things staring at it, lasers pointed at it, hydraulic pistons pushing it and squishing it and doing everything they can to it.
There's Ocean X, you can add that one.
Cousteau and Branson dove Ulyss's Great Blue Hole.
Yep.
Today the 50th anniversary. Is that the launch or the walk? It's a walk, right?
You're not on, Lonnie.
Thanks. Talking to myself.
You were.
Thanks, May. 20th. That is the anniversary of the landing.
The 20th, okay.
Right.
I have vague memory of my parents watching that.
How long was the actual transit from like launch to get to the moon?
A few days.
There's all sorts of conspiracy theorists about that it didn't happen now. Were you still hearing those things when it was actually happening?
Oh, that's a modern convention.
No, it's
people
like
back then weren't.
Right, because Walter Cronkite was the most trusted man in America, and he was telling us about it.
Right.
Although, as much as I abhor anybody trying to make a point or solve an argument physically, the person who was pestering Buzz Aldrin saying he was a
linear
fake and a
feature
fraud,
up ahead. The mezzo.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That, Buzz hauled off and socked him in the jaw. He did.
He did.
Yeah.
Where?
Do you guys see that in the mezzo?
No.
That linear feature up ahead.
We have a complete. Oh. That's odd.
Are you seeing?
The very faint one?
Yeah.
I can see you guys' screen and the blue on you guys' screen, but my screen is like black.
Is it frozen?
Flipper.
No, it's still moving.
It just looks black.
10, 20, 30 meters out?
Yep.
I'm having a hard time distinguishing the bottom.
Yeah,
On
we're
the
kind of
camera.
high up. There's a lot of terrain. Just being conservative.
Where'd it go? Well, it must be right beyond the division mark.
Yeah, we can't see it inside scanner. Kind of. Maybe we could, once we pass it too, if we don't get visual, we can
change the
can go to circle. Yeah. Do you think you'll be able to get low enough in
Yeah,
time?
I'm going. I
There
see
we go.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's bottom.
See if we see a ridge or something linear.
How far are we? How far away from it are we?
It should be coming up on it. It could just be a natural ridge that happened to be linear. But it was kind of a pretty strong line there, huh?
Yeah.
Come on.
But I did turn. And it was like right when I turned, I think you said that. So I like...
Did you turn
I changed my
past it?
heading. I mean,
No.
Oh.
and then it popped up like.
But it was
what you
still
said.
there. It was
Oh,
persistent.
you think it was an artifact of the turn?
Maybe that's.
I don't know. It was persistent after that. I saw a few swipes.
Those are cool.
Definitely some stretch on the sonar there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see anything.
Nothing.
Not even rocks.
You don't think it was so fast that we went over it, right? I think we would have seen it.
No, I think we would have seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there and there and there, and then we were hit bottom, and then it.
Right, yeah.
It's a tricky area.
Yeah. Oh well, thanks for entertaining it.
Anytime.
You figure out what you guys, if you guys are seeing what we're seeing, the monitor you said.
Yeah, I can see. So, you guys is. I can see all of the sort of shady blue stuff in your farthest lines.
Uh-huh.
On yours, I cannot see those on mine, but I can see all of the bright stuff in the middle now.
Oh, maybe
I
it's
can
just the
see
monitor
that.
setting.
Yeah, it probably is.
It's just too dark.
Yeah, it might just be that our screen is darker.
I changed this once, but the other crew changed it back. How about now?
Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, leave it
Thank
like
you.
that.
Yeah, I like that.
I had it like this to begin with.
Yeah, leave it there.
The other watches don't like it like that.
Now we've got consistent
definitely
color
leave it like
That
that.
got real fast. Yeah.
Yes, but
Coming
we're
up,
watch
coming up.
number one.
That's right.
This is what most of the cool kids are using nowadays. That Simrad palette is so last century.
Well,
We set the rules. We find the plane.
that's right. We got to do what the cool kids are doing for sure.
There's some psychology behind that. It's the reason why you see ultrasounds in the same sepia tone, so we can differentiate better a single color ramp in sepia or black and gray than we can a color ramp.
Oh, neat.
That's why the side scan sepia as well.
I've known some
It's
sonar
pronounced
experts
sepia,
who
I'm pretty
love
sure.
the
Sepia.
who love black and white instead.
Yeah, black and white's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't like sometimes a rainbow color. Once you get into classified different colors, then you start to think that something is, if something's green as opposed to blue, or something's red as opposed to yellow, then it means something, but it doesn't mean anything. It's
Right.
it's a single intensity. You're just measuring a single value of how intense is the return, so it should be a single color ramp.
Human eyes are much more sensitive to brightness than color. All television technologies use either 50% or 25% amount of information for color as they do for brightness. We subsample chrominance all the time because humans can't tell the difference. We've
And if
never
you're-
had a letter from a dog.
If you're colorblind, it really doesn't matter, does it?
Depends on the color blindness.
Yeah.
What's that?
There's depends on the color blindness. There's red-green colorblind. There's monochromatic. There's all different degrees.
I'm a strong believer in if it's a single value that you're looking at, it should be a single color ramp, two color ramp from black to white, or in this case, black
Sepia?
to red, and yeah, sepia.
Sepia?
You're the only one who said. You got a problem with me saying sepia? It's good sepia.
Sepia.
It's
Is it
definitely
the Bolivia?
sepia.
It's
Sepia.
a monochrome?
So if you
It's
take
sepia.
Yeah.
You're wrong, Summer.
if you take a photo and you wanted to make it look historical, you would add sepia tone
Sepia
in
tone?
Photoshop.
Oh my God! Keep saying it. Say
Sepia.
sepia one more
Yeah, it's
time.
like somebody holding a small sepia. Is that kind of dog or a wombat or something?
Please follow through on that, Winnie. That'd be awesome.
Call an exterminator. Can you come out and get rid of these sepias for
Sure,
me?
it's not an East Coast, West Coast thing.
Could be. Could
It's
be.
right and the wrong thing.
We deal in absolutes.
How do you say orange?
In the wrong.
Orange,
How about almond?
almond,
Is it pecan
Water.
or pecan?
is water. There's linearity.
I think it's pecan.
Linearity.
Yeah, that's. We should take your advice on how things are pronounced. Linearity.
That goes along with lineage.
Yeah, lineage. Yeah. That's a callback from several days ago.
Yeah, a lot of people can't pass the flight test to become pilots because they find they're colorblind, and it's
Yeah.
more prevalent among men than women.
Yeah.
I know an ROV pilot who's colorblind.
They make glasses now that restore a lot of color
Yeah.
functionality to people who are colorblind. They do a test
Really?
and have them ID what they can and can't see, and that determines exactly what type of color blindness they have. There's like 12 kinds or something, and then they can make glasses specifically for them.
Yeah,
And
one of the guys who's an ROV pilot that I know who is colorblind, he said he went out and bought the glasses, and he was just like, yeah, well, there's like a really, really high-end brand. You go out to like Canada, they like analyze you for a day
Yeah,
and whatever for like, I don't know, $2,000 or something. And then he bought like the $300 version because he was like, I'm not doing that. And he was like, yeah, these make no difference. But maybe the really good brand does. They like scan your eyes and test you. But yeah, for your medical, for flying, you have to pass basic eye tests. And yeah, no colors.
So a question coming in about if we were to find the Clipper, what we would do. We don't really have time to dive Hercules down.
Celebrate.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
after we were done celebrating and notifying everyone else in the ship, we would drop down Argus and record whatever data and images we could that the science team.
I believe the technical term
Needed.
for that one would be videoing the crap out of it.
Yeah,
yeah,
as much as we could.
it'd be
Yeah.
difficult with the heave of Argus, but we would get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely record the lats and logs.
Yeah.
It's not too late. Not too late for Herc. I'm still holding out.
How long would it take to reconnect Herc?
About 10 minutes.
You should talk to Trevor because he used a different number.
Well, there's some other things we have to do besides just connect it.
And recover it
Yeah.
and launch it for
Yeah.
many
But the physical
years.
connection, it's 3 wires and a fiber. How long can that take?
8 hours.
Yeah, I thought we passed the point of no return at around noon.
Yeah, that was what Allison and
What's that?
we set a cutoff at noon for having time left to get Herc in the water.
Oh, so we've officially passed it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's all these
Noon
pesky,
in what time zone?
Here.
We could change that around.
What time zone are we in?
they have all these pesky checklists and pre-dives and post-dives,
Yeah, they're pretty bored.
all that stuff there.
You want to do those every at least 7th dive?
You do those every time you get in the airplane?
Yes, yes.
No, every 7th time. It
Every
looks-
7th
I've
time.
been fine.
What
so-
if you just chuck Hercules into the water?
They're more like a formality,
Yeah,
I
just
think.
throw
it. Yeah.
You don't have
I
to
just
do
kick
that.
the tires and you're like, oh, there's air.
Kick the tires, check the gas,
It's
good
just
to go.
good.
Kick the chalk out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always an important last
Yeah.
step.
Speed bump.
Keep
I
sending in
think
those
Trevor's
questions.
time was a bottom to bottom time. So
What's that?
Trevor's time was probably a bottom to bottom time. Like if you were to start winching up now, how long would it take to be back on location
Yeah.
with Herc in the water?
We had Ireland briefly joining us.
Guessing it. Oh no, he's probably en route. Never mind. Our vessel is managed out of Ireland. And one of our superintendent electrician is headed to the vessel for the weekend.
Lonnie.
Yes,
Ireland?
Brian?
Oh, of course.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Figured, but you gotta check. You never know.
My family, my father's side of the family is still in the same house.
Nice. I loved when American-centric, but President Obama visited Ireland, had a pint of Guinness in the pub, and in a speech told people he was in Ireland searching for the missing apostrophe from his last name. Speechwriter really had a great
was
moment
good.
when
Yeah.
I thought that one
That
up.
was a good one.
Terrain.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
It's a bright little thing on the mezzo.
Yep.
A plane, not terrain.
It's kind of got a almost right angle going on.
If we do happen to come upon the Samoan Clipper, I'm barricading these doors and we're not leaving.
Yeah, yes. Our watch forever.
It won't do any good because there's a winch control on the mez deck.
Oh yeah,
You just
bring us up.
start winching up.
Yeah.
Everyone in the control room cries, but
We had to
Seen
do
it
that.
happen.
We have it too, though.
We had to do that on the last time of the last.
it's a long tradition with some of the other kids actually. We're all in pushing that envelope, getting an extra 10 minutes, and all of a sudden the ROV is just yanked away from the seabed.
Instead of
The boss is
standoff.
out on the deck.
Standoff. Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
There
There was always a bit of, I think, at the end of the last cruise when Steve was, I think we got to get just the last bit of seafloor, just that, oh, that one coral over there, that one.
Always someone on the winch.
Is that rock we see in video the one that we see in the mezzo?
I think it's not just a rock. I think it's a wall of
Oh,
rocks.
what is a group of rocks called?
Where's the pocket
Rock
ref?
eye?
A pile.
Pile of
Rock
rock.
pile.
Gomer.
A disappointment of rocks.
So how many calderas have you seen underwater?
Oh my gosh.
And how many are in the United States above water?
Yellowstone?
I thought it was Yosemite.
Ah, that might be right.
I don't know.
Crater Lake.
I thought it was
And New Hampshire, Ossipee Mountains.
Anybody here ever been to the Punch Bowl Cemetery on Oahu?
Nope.
Nope.
I think it's the National Veteran Cemetery of the Pacific, or something like that is the actual name. It's beautiful. Just behind Honolulu, inside a crater.
Yes, I've been.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Have fun with that wall up there.
All right, we're just about the top of the hour. What other little Samoan Clipper factoid do we possibly have? We did facilities. There was a, the passenger version had a steward's area and an ice box. And this one clearly had an ice box because the doors washed up. Was it 9 days later?
I don't know.
10 days later?
They did wash up on a different island, I believe.
Yeah.
I prefer being back here talking to myself. How many days have I been here?
Oh, sorry,
Blah,
were you
blah,
muted
blah,
again?
blah,
Yeah.
Did you get that factoid? It's over with.
That's it. That's
well,
all you
we
get.
we made up a fact. It had an ice box on board. It was likely back in the steward's compartment, even though there wasn't a steward. And it washed up 9 days later on a different island. That's what we made up.
That's pretty good.
How'd we do?
Yeah, you did well.
All right.
You're piecing together the jigsaw puzzle very well.
Every time we do that, we pull a Lonnie.
At the main passenger stairway in the rear are located additional baggage compartments with a total capacity of 95 cubic feet. This is not for the B, so the B has more. Large packages find ready access through the main passenger entrance that measures 25 inches by 72 inches. Between the front and rear baggage compartments are located the passenger cabins and the lavatories, which we know were removed for the B. And I've mentioned this before, a concealed ventilating system supplies upwards of 30 cubic feet of air per passenger per minute. Auxiliary to this is an efficient exhaust system. And we had discussed this before in relation to sucking the gas fumes back into the hull.
And
Would
sorry,
this have been
just
a no
tiny
smoking flight?
small correction. Actually, we don't. Well, because there was no passengers.
No, but I said we took that away. Yeah, we eliminated that in the B.
Oh no, I was talking about for smoking.
Oh, for smoking.
So it would have been just up to the crew. One correction, though, I think to what you said, Ed, the icebox would have been located forward in the aircraft, not aft.
Okay.
So there.
She wins.
The superstructure also serves as a passageway for items of controls that pass from hull to wing.
Right,
Entrance is afforded to the structure from the inside of the cabin as well as from the outside. The internal space of the structure is such as to allow a man to work with comfort. A lot of the specs are very technical, and I didn't think of general interest to our viewers, but I'll be glad.
A lot of
to
them sound
bore
like they
anyone.
were, at least the narrative part is written towards a prospective purchaser of the aircraft.
Yes, yeah, it's a Sikorsky document. Flight test confirmed that the S-42 flies easily and smoothly in the roughest of weather.
Oh, that's a fun little target.
The straight.
The starboard one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there is a straight line dead ahead.
Oh man, it's an emotional roller coaster of
Right?
terrain.
Yeah.
Up or down. Mostly just that. No left and right.
Yeah, I kind of long for somebody saying, "You're tugging on me," or "Watch your delta."
Do you think Argus has had a fun 4 to 5 days?
Emotionally? Yes.
When it comes up, we'll ask it some I feel statements.
Do you feel like it's grown as an ROV?
It's endurance.
I think
Certainly is.
Devin scheduled an interview with Argus for later tomorrow morning.
Oh, excellent. Hopes, fears, and dreams.
Favorite movie?
Probably.
Come on, plane.
Water World.
Ooh.
Ishtar.
You mean the future? Scary. But could be true.
We're talking about Argus's favorite movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waterworld. Terminator 12.
Sharknado.
They just had a new Terminator.
The
Trailers,
2012 National Yo-Yo Finals.
Hot dog eating competition. (1974) Battle of the Network Stars.
Keep those questions coming in. If you have some interesting factoids that you want to know about the smoke clipper, we have Lonnie here who will be excited to try and find the answer if she doesn't somehow know it already.
What was that, Brian?
I was saying to go ahead and keep sending those questions in. We have Lonnie here who will probably have the answer to it. Or if not, she'll probably try and find it.
Yes, but realize I don't have access to the internet, so people shouldn't assume I'm just going to latch on to an answer.
Even
but
worse.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
We
Even
put you
worse,
on a pedestal.
They have access to the internet to
They
check
do,
what
and
you're
they
saying.
can answer the questions
Yeah.
that they're asking. Tell us the answer.
Did you just tell our viewers to just
Right.
answer your own question?
No.
Google it.
Just Google it.
No, more help us out. Help us out if we stumble.
Well, viewer, Google says.
Wikipedia says.
There's actually an online service that does that kind of tongue-in-cheek called Let Me Google That For You.
Yeah.
Oh.
And if somebody asks you a question that they could have easily Googled, you can make a link at lmgtfy.com.
Isn't that Alexa who does that? Siri?
And you end up with a link and you send it to them. When they click on the link, it says, oh, you want to find something out on the internet? Here's how. And it opens up the Google page. It types exactly what they needed to type for their search in. It says, then you just press enter. See, that wasn't hard, was it? That's great. Let me Google that for you.
Must be true. I read it on the internet.
So it's the type of thing you do if you don't want to continue that friendship.
Yeah.
That's true.
Especially, it must be true.
I
I read
get-
it on Wikipedia.
Here, I give you this link. Have fun.
There's a meme that compares college freshmen with college seniors. And one of them is the college freshman is citing Wikipedia as a source. And the college senior is citing Wikipedia's sources as the source.
Yeah. Truth.
We had this discussion a couple days ago.
Yes, because some of the sources that we've come up with and have been posted are now coming back to us as people inform us about the project.
Huh.
Or the originators. It's kind of interesting. One of
Lonnie,
the
I think
clippers,
that
oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that that should be your title at Air-Sea Heritage. The originator.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like if you say it like that, you're also implying she somehow in her spare time, or spare time, fights crime.
That's pretty much how I was
Terminator.
saying it.
Well,
The originator.
Sitting
I have
next to
a
me
hard time
is the
imagining
originator.
Lonnie with any spare time.
sounds like I'm making it up. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you, do you usually, on an historic site, do you usually have an historian person sitting in Psi 2 here?
Usually in contact with us, but if we're going out on a leg and we're doing 10 days of biology and one dive on a maritime heritage site, we'll usually leverage telepresence to enable those people to participate without having to be gone from their office for 2 weeks.
Right.
That's where SciChat comes in handy.
Yeah, I just didn't know whether it's useful or not.
I always find, well, not on aviation wrecks, but on maritime wrecks, there's so many parts of a vessel that we just don't actually know the name of, and marine archaeologists do.
Yeah, because when I came aboard, of course, I felt entirely irrelevant because I'm not any of the jobs that fill these seats.
Yes, you are.
You
well,
are now.
You're a researcher.
I'm growing into it, but you know what I mean. I'm not looking for a report card here. I'm looking for, is this a valid sort of contribution on the on site?
I think out of any of us, you have proven that you are valuable.
Well,
Pretty much.
that's very nice, but
Well, I was just saying it.
yeah, I know. I know. We know each other. No, because it's tricky to take one section of a project and move it through the maze to another part of the project where it usually isn't, and it has to fit in and be relevant. So that's pretty much my question. I'm not looking for a report card. I'm looking for, is this a valid block at this point in time on the project? And I hope it is. I mean, I hope all these facts and things help. It doesn't help us necessarily, all the factoids don't help us find the plane, except to realize what we might see or what things are made of. Yeah, so I guess it does help. But
Getting close to our next line. Lonnie, someone just called you the new James Delgado.
Ooh. Ooh.
oh, that is a compliment way beyond any I could expect. He's a legend. He's so qualified. That's so nice, whoever that person is. Thank you. By the way, in our quest for finding out about the ransom and Chiang Kai-shek and Sellers' first officer being Chiang Kai-shek, a pilot in 1936, I wrote to my husband Dave, who knows the history of everything, and he researched it, and he can't find any mention of the ransom anywhere, so it's just from one source. Very interesting.
Yeah, we tried finding it, but we couldn't find anything.
Do we have anyone from Germany still on?
Survey says no.
Okay.
And Lonnie, what did you say the original story of the ransom was? I know we talked about it, where it was it Madam Chiang Kai-shek and,
yes, and
the ransom money?
And Sellers, the first officer.
Uh-huh.
But we don't know the story.
Oh, okay.
We just know it was mentioned somewhere. So what we're trying to do is figure out what the story is.
Yeah. So the circumstances are known, but not the context.
Right, and it wasn't a story about Chiang Kai-shek. It was just a vignette about Sellers.
Huh.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
So viewers asked a question about, can the ship emit, do we have any ground penetrating radar, or sonar, excuse me, and the answer to that is no.
Can the ship? We do.
Oh, the ship does.
Yes. Sub-bottom sonar.
But that
Maybe-
doesn't necessarily help us in this situation.
It does not.
Oh, that's a nice jellyfish.
If you're, I'm trying to get at if they were implying that if the plane were to be somehow buried, which with the sedimentation rates wouldn't really allow for that, but if it would be, would our shipboard sub-bottom sonar help? And the answer to that is also no. It would, it could not resolve a plane at these depths. Argus has a sub-bottom sonar that we use for bottom tracking. It's possible we could mess with the frequencies to see if we could get anything, but I suspect at that point you'd have to be directly over it. No, wouldn't really help. You could say that that's a lost case, lost cause. But there's no reason to believe that there's anything buried.
So will we be tackling these southern lines until we run out of time, or will we have a chance to scan anything else?
I believe just these southern lines back and forth, unless we have any new reason to go anywhere else.
I'm sorry, what was that? All right. Sorry, I have you, or I'm listening to you just in case of navigation commands. And so I heard half of that conversation and was like, wait, what? Maybe I just gotta snoop in on the entire front row.
Peyton's one of those. Dr. Megan, we have a request for your favorite expedition to date exploring underwater aircraft, not including this one.
Favorite expedition to date? You know, it's really difficult without having a personal bias, because my favorite one would have...
I think favorite implies that it's okay to have personal bias.
Okay, all right. So
Bias it up.
So for my PhD dissertation, I studied a series of aircraft wrecks. one of those was sort of a last-minute addition, and I wasn't as personally tied to it as the other two. But the other two, the USS Macon site that a lot of people have heard me talk about before, and the Tulsa American B-24s and other B-24s over in Croatia, it would be really hard for me to choose between those two because of the amount of research and sort of love and...
Well, the premise of the question dictates you need to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're going to have to go for it. Go out on a limb. What's your favorite child?
Yeah.
The Tulsa American.
There you go.
Yeah.
What sets that one just slightly above?
So the Tulsa American is a B-24 that was built in Tulsa in 1944. Oh, 1944. And it was the last built B-24 that the Douglas Aircraft Factory built there, and they actually had the workers purchase it with bonds, and so the workers were able to name it, and the community was able to sort of write messages on it, and they took their photos with it, and it was a real community icon. It has several published sort of newsletters about just everything that everybody did with this aircraft. Very iconic. So it was sent over to the U.S. front in Italy, and it was used for bombing runs up across the sea to Croatia, up to Poland, and back down again over Germany. So this aircraft was lost about 6 months after it got over there in January of 1945. And 3 of the crew members did not make the crash.
Was it just shut down, or did it suffer mechanical failures?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. What happened is that they, excuse me, they were on a raid over Pulaski, and they were with a lot of other B-17s, B-24s, and they went into a cloud. They lost each other in this box formation because they had to separate so that they wouldn't crash into each other. When they came out of the cloud, there were some German aircraft waiting for them. So they got engaged in a dogfight. They got shut up. They got hit by flak from the from the ground, and they lost hydraulics, and they lost an engine. So they turned around. They dumped their bomb load. They started to limp back to Italy. By the time that they had gotten to Croatia, they lost another engine, and they were desperately trying to close their bomb bay doors so that they could be safe to make an attempted ditch landing if they had to. But before you cross the Adriatic to go back to Italy, there's a last ditch island, and that island is Vis. And so they came on this Allied airfield, and they tried to circle once to get the landing gear down because they were having to hand pump it down because they had lost hydraulics. They circled twice, and that's when they lost the other 2 engines almost simultaneously. So they went down. They were very close to the water, so it wasn't too much of a crash. The B-24 actually separated in the forward and aft sections, and the cockpit was pretty much demolished.
Wow.
But 7 out of 10 people were able to get out of that wreck and survive and go on. A couple other people had other missions, but a lot of them were Tulsa based. And so actually the factory, they advertised to their workers that one of these men would come back, and everybody would get paid time off to sit and listen to him tell the story of what happened to their airplane. And it sort of energized the factory workers to build more airplanes to send over to make up for the loss of this one. And so they were really excited and interested in their particular airplane. So fast forward 75, 80 years, and we now know where the Tulsa American is. We know what went on with it. It is a grave site for these 3 airmen that didn't make it off the plane. And it still is a community icon. And so it's just because the Tulsa American went down and it's now underwater, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist anymore. So 70 years of that airplane's life has been underwater. And that's a story that we can tell at the Tulsa Aviation Museum and make it so that that aircraft did not just stop its life. It still means something to the community. The community can actually view it underwater. And so one of the things that I was doing was I was studying the deterioration of wrecks around there because there's so many B-24s. I was able to take corrosion potential readings off of a couple of them, so 3 of them, and they were all 3 at different depths. And so I completely site mapped the entire site, and I built a 3D model of it, both the forward section and the tail section. And that 3D model is something that we can show in the museum to let people who don't scuba dive and who don't make it over to Croatia, it lets them actually see the airplane now and still interact with it. And when we were down there, we found paint on the areas that would still have the Tulsa American nose art on it, so we know that that still exists. And then so all of this information I wrote up in a report and gave it to the Defense POW MIA Association, and they then decided to excavate the site, and they found the remains of the pilot. And so the family, who is still in Tulsa and still very much is affected by this loss, they were able to actually bury their relative and be able to close that chapter out and have some closure. Basically, they got his personal items. It was his wedding ring and his flight pin.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
Those are 2 very small but very important artifacts.
exactly. Yeah, so there was a lot going on that particular site, and it kind of ticked all of the boxes of importance and sort of relevancy to people, and it was a really neat site.
Were his remains buried in Arlington, or did they take him back to Tulsa? Or
It was in Arlington.
Arlington. Very fitting.
Yes.
Wow, that was a very awesome story.
Yeah, it's an awesome site. But the USS Macon and biplanes are a very close second. Very, 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 very close.
So with
I was the backup researcher on that, and they sent me out to Goodyear, and so I worked on that project for a long time.
the one in Tulsa or the Macon
No,
one?
the USS Macon.
Macon.
Uh-huh.
With an aircraft such as that, was it acceptable for them, or was it? Did they have to stay in, or did until they tried to make the ditch, or did
No.
could you evacuate and like
They
parachute
could have-
out?
Yeah, they could have bailed out, but in this case, there was not any time. So
Yeah.
actually, I mean, they were coming in for a landing. They thought that they were going to be able to make that landing. So when they lost those engines, it was, they probably had 10 or 15 seconds until they hit the water.
Oh, okay.
So there was no time to
Yeah.
bail out. They were far too close anyways. I think they were 100 to 200 feet at that point. So there was just no time.
Oh.
I actually met, this is one of the other really cool things, is that I actually met one of these survivors. He was the loveliest older gentleman that I probably ever met besides my own grandparents. And one of the most favorite things that he did was we were having lunch, and the waitress came over and asked him what he wanted and to drink, and he sort of paused a minute, and then he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I think I'm gonna have a Dr. Pepper," and he gave me a little wink, like it was like he was doing something that was really dangerous or something, and it was adorable. God. So adorable. He was a real charmer, and actually looking back at some of his photos too, he was a real looker at that point as well. So he was just really sweet, and he told me his personal account of the wreck and what he remembered and everything that he did afterwards, and very interesting man.
So did anyone ever end up coming back from that plane to talk to the factory?
Yes, it was this particular gentleman.
Do you think it had anything to do with you being a doctor?
I wasn't a doctor at that point.
So he's just living dangerously. That's
He was, yep.
Was there a Discovery Channel?
It was on the Discovery Channel recently, yes.
Yeah, we watched that.
Yeah, the group that actually went out and had the contract to excavate the wreck, that was their show.
So is the excavation of the wreck completed?
DPA doesn't consider a site actually completed until they are able to excavate everybody that has gone off, or able to account for everybody. And I still believe that one person is unaccounted for, and so that site will remain open as far as I know. But I'm not privy to the DPA case file, so I don't know that for certain.
I have a friend who's an archaeologist, and she's over in Germany trying to recover some remains from World War II of American soldiers.
Yeah. There's a lot of different projects going on right now. Peleliu, I know that they're doing some stuff over in Saipan right now.
Was it a Discovery Channel, Megan, or a NOAA? Or a PBS special?
Oh, it's a PBS special. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that.
Nova. Sorry, it was a Nova episode, I believe.
Yep.
It's like a little cloudy outside.
Yeah, we lose a bunch of shipmates tomorrow, I think.
You never lose us.
I was thinking that'd be a
That's
weird
true.
thing to say in the middle of a cruise.
Yeah, right.
Where do you
That's
know,
good.
Ed?
That'd be
Is today Monday?
comforting as Russ's comment when we were flying over, and he reminded us that we were flying the exact same route
Yeah.
from up here. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Russ.
Yeah, thank you so much. A music factoid that we haven't talked about is that he was second lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve.
Oh, wow.
His naval aviator number was 1673.
But a second lieutenant's an 01, yeah?
Second lieutenant.
Did Ed Music by any chance play an instrument?
Oh.
No.
I mean, they named a radio station after him too, so I wasn't.
In New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. Besides just the name.
I think the radio station was like a ground station that helped with aviation, not like all the hits all the time. I could be wrong.
They could have multitasked.
Right.
It's called Music Group. I think it still exists. The group still exists. They have a website.
Yeah. Since we have so many divers on board, we have a viewer who has a question if the old school diving gear, including the large round metal helmet, do people still try to do old school dives using those equipment?
Yeah, salvage divers use those still. Surface supplied air, although it's in a different form factor now, and some people, well, I'll let Summers probably got more salvage.
Yeah, commercial diving is still definitely a thing. It's definitely gone through its evolutions of changes and safety.
You get live
since
video
like,
back from the diver, and you have comms with them.
Are we talking about the diving bell?
And
no, we're talking about
no,
the
just
big brass
Yeah,
thing
the
with
old-fashioned
the
helmets.
gate that came across your
and
face.
they get like deeper dives. They can assemble like an elevator type thing, so the diver doesn't have to like struggle to get down to depth, for instance.
Yeah.
So they can just go in. They literally go down to the seafloor, tie off their rig, and then untie it, and then do what they got to do, and they get back in. And then sometimes at depth, if they go, so there's like, obviously people would probably know if you're a diver about nitrogen buildup. So there's a certain amount of time that you can kind of exceed underwater and not have to do your decompression stops. You can just go straight into a decompression chamber. So a lot of the times they'll have 2 of those on board. For the divers, they get off the elevator and they go straight into the decompression chamber. And basically what it does is there'll be a supervisor overseeing them, and they keep them at that pressure they were just at, and then slowly bring them back to normal atmosphere. And sometimes it could be hours, and sometimes even,
There's also saturation divers who stay at depth.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. That's intense.
Or they have those special mixes in their tanks.
Nitrox?
No, saturation divers stay at depth. Oh, they might be trimix maybe.
Mm.
Or nitrox probably not so much because there's an oxygen toxicity. Well, you run into that with anything, but.
Yeah, there's, what is that, A Few Good Men? Is that the good movie about Cuba Gooding Jr.? Is
No.
No, it's not that one. Which is the one with him as a diver?
I know what you're talking about.
Google.
It looks some rocks.
Well, yeah, what was the name of the movie?
A Few Good Men?
Is it A Few Good?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
He was a cook.
Men of
that became
Honor?
Or
yeah,
Men of Honor. Men of Honor, yeah,
He was a cook that became
Right, yeah.
world famous.
Isn't A Few Good Men the
Famous
Jack
Snyder.
Nicholson, Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Yep. You can't
You
handle
can't
the truth.
handle the truth.
That's pretty good.
I've actually never even seen that. I just know that
You've
line.
seen.
Depends on the density of the banana.
Yes.
The amazing part about that story was that he was able to dive again as one leg, minus one leg.
Yeah.
Amazing story of perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan, you have to adjust that chair so it's completely whacked out for the next watch.
Just have it like
Do they
45
complain
degree
about that
angle.
too?
Like a demo
No.
chair.
Dan just changes things and keeps it. It's been the thing.
Stack the chairs on top of each
That
other.
thing can be locked at like a slightly off angle. One of them spins. Forget which one it is. Yeah.
That's just so annoying.
I
would
wish
like to pick on Mike like that.
it's just because of his the way he reacts to stuff. We just want to see the reaction.
Looks like it's starting to flatten out again.
It
Little
looks
bit
like
on
it,
port.
doesn't it?
On a low frequency, you can still see some farther away.
Data logger and dive supervisor. Good call.
You really want to do a good one, take a screenshot of one of those screens and then just do the Alt tab as you get out of the chair.
That's cruel.
It's
Actually, that happened to me once. The bridge was trying to figure out what was going on. Someone was up here. We were doing a mapping, and they had every watch. It was the two novice people were up here, and I would check in on them, and they just were all sprawled out. This was during a mapping leg, so it's like they're all sprawled out. And I was like, I'm not going to comment about the organization because it's not my place. But then what had happened was they had jammed the left click button up against the keyboard, and when you do that, apparently everything stops moving. Everything stops updating on the HiPAC screen, and they're like, they're like, everything's broken. They like came down and woke me up. I got up here, and I just looked at the situation, and I was like, this released it. And then like looked at the clutter and looked back at them. And they just woken me up and just walked downstairs. So I think they felt pretty bad. You didn't say anything.
I think you sent a clear message there.
My friend was telling me about an ROV that they had just built, and it was pretty experimental. Or it was actually AUV, ROV, like
The
mix.
hybrid?
Yeah, a hybrid. And
Nereus.
they were working on the tether.
Nereus, yeah.
And for some reason they kept like losing, like during dives they would just like lose all this tether, and it was like, what's happening? Like, is it self-releasing, whatever, da-da-da-da. And they couldn't figure it out. And then one day my friend was on the back deck, and they were like just looking at it or whatever, pre-diving it or something, and all of a sudden he sees the tether release, and he's like, wait, are you paying out tether? And they're like, no. What happened was somehow in the code, every time the space bar was hit, tether would release. So like, and I mean, they never would have found that out unless like, somebody was out on the back deck, and luckily he was and like fixed it, and he was like, wow,
Oh man.
that's an expensive
Sure, I
bug.
knew. who wrote that code.
Programmers, man.
It's a
Is
hardware
that the
issue.
same one that imploded in the Marianas Trench?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Nereus. Actually,